welcome everyone. I'm glad you're here. And these are fast sessions, so we might go at a little bit of a clip, but I would love to hear just from a couple people in the room, from a product perspective, what you hate or are scared about when it comes to closing deals, literally being in sales. Couple perspectives? Yes, ma'am.
All the salesy language that my salespeople want to use, and I'm like, no, just cut to the chase.
Salesy language, that's right. Love that. I want to be direct. I want to talk about value. Yes, ma'am.
Being roped into a commitment that I don't want to fulfill.
Tell me more about that.
Promises are made during sales cycles, and
Yes.
if somebody in product is in that room, you're constantly agreeing.
Yes, that's right. We do AI, of course we do. What's our AI roadmap? I actually just had that happen on live television. Our owner, founder at the company I'm working at now, got a spot on Bloomberg Tech and flew out to LA. We were at a product conference or an industry conference, and we all watched the video, and he goes, we're using our AI to help inventory move from here to there, something like that. And I looked, the other people, like, we don't have any AI. There's nothing like that. We're taking spreadsheets and paper. So I call the people over there, his handler, and I'm like, what was that? They're like, well, Bloomberg Media thought it would be a good idea to make sure we talk about AI, so they threw it into the ticker at the bottom about 2 minutes before they go live, and they did the best they could with it. Okay. Anyway, yes, I don't like being put on commitments either. Who's got a couple others? Yes, ma'am.
It's similar. It's when you inherit an account where promises were made that can't be fulfilled.
Yes.
Or not now, but in the future.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, both of those are very painful situations.
But it's not about closing.
I think everyone faces the same situation.
Say more. Excuse me? I couldn't find who was speaking. I didn't find them in time. Oh, there it is. Yeah, everybody faces the same situation of those. Yeah. What about sales, though? If I'm like literally like, all right, we've got a meeting with Microsoft, Walmart, something like that this week, and we really need you to close the deal. What would you feel about that? Like, hey, you're going to go close this deal.
No problem.
You're like, no problem. I'll beat it down. Sir?
Uncertainty about the problem that the customer is trying to solve.
Right.
Whether the product solves that problem.
That's right. Good.
Just not feeling super comfortable with sales frameworks.
Yeah. Yes. We're on shaky ground as product people probably with like, okay, well, what is exactly supposed to happen? And if I'm like one of the first people who's raised their hand, I'm like, I'm just going to go in there and tell them what the product does, and they can like it or they can not like it and go away. Like, that's the whole deal, right? And our sales team and revenue teams don't like that, and that's why they sometimes say, we don't want to put you in the room, but then sometimes you have to be in the room, and then sometimes the salespeople who are in the room don't know how to describe your product, and so you're like, I need to be in the room, even though I don't want to be in the room because of this war zone. That's pretty much the state of nature of product as I know it. Okay, so I in the past have been at the founding product person for at least 7 different companies and had to close our first deals. And it's one of these things like in hindsight, because I'm in the product manager camp that didn't know we were product managers until maybe 5 years after we were a product manager, and somebody's like, that's a product manager, and you go and look it up, and sure enough, I'm a product manager. Most of my business experience has been that way, and that I closed deals is that way. My most egregious one is I closed personally a $36 million enterprise deal and didn't know like how sales works at all. Just not my world. I never got paid any sort of commission, bonus, nothing from that. In hindsight now, like, I was really taken advantage of, I think. I just closed a $36 million deal by myself. And I've done B2C marketplaces, B2B2C, and yeah, both B2B and B2C side first deals. And here's what I've concluded about this as a product person, is our job is to figure out value at the end of the day. That's our job. And if we are really good at our job, we will probably be helping engineering and design teams deliver that value. But if we're really, really, really good at our job, We will also be great at speaking to customers and help elicit that value. If we can do both of those things, then we will always be viewed as the profitable side of the business. If we're just focused on how the engineers and designers do the thing that does the delivery, we will be always viewed as the cost side of the business. And I think it's critical, just not only for our careers, but actually to provide the value that we so desperately want to do, which is our capability and skill set to be more involved in revenue. And this is about being comfortably involved in revenue. So what you're looking at on the screen is a sales discovery model. It is developed by Dr. Stephen Tomlinson, who used to be one of the top professors here. He was a founder of the Acton MBA program across town when that was going big and strong. He is a real TED speaker, not just TEDx. He has co-founded business with Chip and Dan Heath, the authors of books like Made to Stick and Switch. He pioneered a consulting model that is used at Dell, where they actually write a screenplay based on the consultant running around and asking questions, and then they hire paid actors and show the mirror back that way. He pioneered that process, and he is a PhD in international economics and personally coaches top executives at companies like Goldman Sachs. I've been his understudy for the last 7 or 8 years, studying models like this and helping go and deploy and train those models at companies of all sizes, small to great. And this model right here is the core one. I've memorized it. I use it on all my deals all the time because I've found that this comfortably has me knowing how to direct the flow of a conversation. And discovery is already my sweet spot because I'm a product person. So this is the sales discovery model. What I want to show you next is some suggested questions that help you go through this, but I want to talk about trust so that you know how to use this tool. So we'll go back and forth on this a little bit. I want to start talking about trust by going to a blank canvas here real quick. So we're going to pull up this blank canvas.
Will this be shared later?
They've told me that this is recorded, and I have my email up here. Uh-oh, the little thingy went. I have my email up here because I'm very happy to share this if it's not publicized more broadly. So I'll just need your emails. Okay, here we go. So think of trust like a line. We want greater depth of trust. And trust, I love the definition of the level of trust as the next risk someone is willing to take with you. So there's a us side of the line and a them side of the line. And trust is developed by making rapid exchanges back and forth. And each time we make an exchange, if the other side feels that the way that we made that exchange was legitimate and worth going further, they will take a risk and come back with us. So it could be as simple as, what's your name? Rocky. Where'd you get that name, Rocky? Caleb gave him that name. I was there. I saw this happen. He misspoke. So we start with a name. We might ask where we're from. We might ask these questions that show us we're butt sniffing. We're seeing what is the other person going to be like when we engage with them. At a certain point on this line, we want to talk about things that salespeople want to talk about because they're necessary to close deals. In BANT, budget, authority, need, and timeline, budget comes first, but in trust, budget is last. We don't talk about money until we've established enough back and forth that taking the risk to tell you about money is the right thing to do. When we ask about money too early, it's a pounce in our trust game. We have pounced on them and guard is up like this. When we follow the discovery wheel that I have up there, the question order is free in terms of trust. And when it's time to talk about money, it's the perfect time to talk about money. And we gain trust because we are asking the invasive question, because that question is necessary to make the deal keep going. If you can't talk about how much something is worth to the other side of the business, then you have no ability to define the value of the product you're there talking about and trying to create an exchange of value around. So the key here for the principles of trust is that we need to have a way to exchange back and forth to get to the juicy stuff. And how are we going to get there? There's two things you need to progress down this line. The first, if you're a product person, the two things that you need, the first is a thought model. The thought model helps you know where you're going. When I see people coach sales, one of the most frustrating things that I see is that we should just ask more questions. Ask more questions. That's how to sell good. Show that you're interested in people. Show genuine interest. People love to talk about themselves. To me, that's kind of right there up there with public speaking coaching. That's like, imagine people naked, or other weird tricks that are just like, do something more or less. That's not enough for me. It doesn't help me. And you end up with meandering conversations. Pointless questions. Hey, how's your day going so far? You don't give a crap. They don't give a crap. They don't know you. They don't want to talk about it. And you keep asking them questions about it. Not okay. So we need a thought model that helps us know the questions and the order in which those questions work that go somewhere. That's how to ask more questions. So the thought models that I like to train on are just these four. A discovery model for early stage conversation. How can I find the value? There's promising value somewhere. The gatekeeper model. How do they make decisions? What is their process inside of their company? I don't want to talk about how they make decisions until I've got value on the table. So this thought model gets deployed after the discovery model, and we actually have agreed on and are excited and showing some enthusiasm around the discovery of value. Now we can go through who else needs to be involved in this deal. What do they care about? How do they like to get information? I'll put it together that way next week. How's this time work? You do that at the end. But this is, for me, very simple thought model. How to find find the way through the gatekeeper to the other folks that need to be involved in the decision and keep moving the deal forward. Great thought model. This is a proposal thought model. I've done trainings at this, on that, other times. How to put the proposal on the table when you've got the board in the room or whatever. And this is the negotiation thought model, which is a very simple way. You're not going to learn it today, but a very simple way to think about how do I find a way to yes that works for both sides. Today we're just training on the discovery model, but I wanted to show you kind of, for me, as a product person who closes lots of deals now and is associated with revenue, the four models that help me build trust in a way that I'm comfortable in my own skin and create lots of value are a discovery model, a gatekeeper or decision-making model, a negotiation model, and a proposal model. There's one more that I can't put up here, which is just called the demo model, because you need your product to do it, and it's real simple. I'll tell you all years of revenue generation secrets right here. Demos are not walkthroughs. That's pretty much all you need. Demos are not walkthroughs. Here's the ideal product demo. I'm brought to the call by my salespeople who think I'm going to do a walkthrough. Or I think I'm going to do a walkthrough because I'm a product person, and that's what I do. I fall in love with it. My baby is the product. We're going to click through every single daggone menu like it's a training. Flip that around. Hi, what did you all think was promising about this product? We get the prospect to state what they think they're going to see. If they're cagey, describe the ideal product in this category. I'm not going to show you our product until you tell me how high the bar is. I've had conversations about like a healthy kid phone, like for an 8-year-old, which I've designed. It's called Pinwheel, where the person on the other end is like, it's impossible. You would never feel comfortable giving an 8-year-old a smartphone. Tell me why. Break it down for me. Games this, social media that, notifications this, distraction that. Go on, keep going. Okay, great. I think if you designed a kid phone for an 8-year-old, what you're about to see is the phone you would design. You just didn't know it yet. Let me show you. So you get some buy-in and assent before you demo. Then you demo one thing at a time and you check in. So I'm hearing you say that you need this to analyze and make reports better than you've ever seen before. Let me take you straight there. This is our reports section. I'd like you to tell me what to click. What do you think it's going to do? What do you think about it now that it's doing that? How's this working for you? And sometimes, many times, like, that's it. That's what I'm looking for. Great. I don't think you need to see anything else. I'm happy to show you other things. You want to see anything else? I've been on a lot of 5 and 10 minute demos where the deal closes because they saw the one thing that I actually cared about. So we do that instead of a product walkthrough. Am I making sense? Okay. All right, so back to discovery. This is the hard part. To me, this is the most important conversation, and the one that I want to be the most involved in as a product person is the actual discovery, because that's where we define the value. And if we're wrong, that's where I learn, and it's just part of my normal discovery process of like, we're missing. Our product isn't hitting the mark yet. Let me find more value. So the second thing that we need, though, to navigate these conversations is we need a way of being that works. I'm going to go ahead and use this fine person's language and say, not salesy. We're in this room because we're not salesy. I already know that. So what is a way of being that we can take and feel proud and comfortable engaging in conversation that is revenue-oriented without being salesy? I'd like to share that way of being with you very quickly. It is actually at the bottom of the big model, which you will all get as a handout if you email me or the recording works. So here they are. There are 3 rules of engagement for our way of being. These are scientifically proven to reduce feelings of anxiety and depression and loneliness and increase feelings of well-being as conversational techniques. I have trained them at the tippy top of Fortune 500 corporations and their sales teams, at the bitty bottom of early stage first deals for startups, and in totally non-business contexts. And their study has been done in business contexts and out of business contexts. So these are really good ways to communicate with people. The first rule of engagement is 1 point per turn. A shortcut way of thinking about that is hand off. You're never going to achieve the kind of trust quickly that you need to make a deal without a lot of handoffs. So a poor conversation, and we've actually studied this. We did a 1,000 call study with Bazaar Voice here in town around their next stage deals on this exact subject. And what we found was very straightforward, which is if you take 2 calls side by side and you look at one and the same exact subject matter has a lot of handoffs and looks like this, but the other is like, let me tell you our company history and what we do and who we are and what our features are. Now you ask a bunch of questions and tell me how you're reacting to it and whatever, and now I say stuff like that. This first call type is going to progress to next steps wildly more often and wildly sooner. Both things are happening. And the reason is because of how the human brain works, which is if I tell you 3 things at a time and you have thoughts about the first one, how well are you listening to the second one? That's what cognitive dissonance is. Then when it's your turn to speak, you not only have been thinking about which things are you going to ask about, probe about, or whatever, but you've been trying to keep them organized while also listening, and you're like basically building a product roadmap of questions. And you have to decide which one am I going to deploy first, knowing that I may not get to the second one or may forget it by the time that I say the second one. And sometimes we're like, let me just tell you all my questions. And then we go through them one at a time. This is a very poor form of communication. The great form of communication, which is also a fantastic product experience, we already know that, is that we say one thing, we do one thing, and the person thinks about and processes that one thing until they're done with it. And they move on. That's what 1 point per turn means. It doesn't have to mean only one sentence. It could be paragraphs. It could be a lot of data. But 1 point. Yes, sir?
Yeah, I was going to say, it just reminds me a lot of Agile software development, right?
That's right.
Like it just you pretty much, you're able to converge a lot faster by having those interactions rather than going in one direction a long time, finding out you're wrong, and then steering back to the other way. So,
Brilliant.
yeah,
I love that. I've never made that connection. This is the waterfall model.
yeah,
Love that. Thank you. So the hardest part of 1 point per turn is, first of all, if you have a salesperson in the room, they will ruin this and break it. So you have to train them. And second of all, your comfort with silence. Silence is what trust sounds like. So I like asking my prospects a question like, how much is this worth to you? Then they speak. The amount of deals that I have seen progress through 30 and 45-second silences is astounding. Once you start to experience it, you'll keep wanting to experience it. I was coaching someone who was trying to get through on a major medical deal, a medical product deal at a hospital system, and they hadn't gotten through in 9 months to the further on decision makers. And we taught them this. They went that week and had us follow on call with 4 or 5 people, and he deployed this one question. He said, who else do we need to talk to? And instead of over talking, which was most of us do, which is, who else do I need to talk to? You know, there might be other people in the decision-making framework. There might be budget people or CFOs or something like that, blah, 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 blah. He just said, who else do I need to talk to? And he waited. And he said, I waited probably 20 seconds. It felt like 6 minutes. And then one person at the other end of the call said, well, you probably need to talk to Bob in finance. And then another person at the other end of the call said, no, you need to talk to Nancy in procurement. And then they started debating about who he needs to talk to next and lined up all the meetings because he was able to comfortably leverage silence. You had a question or a point?
How do you do that multiple handoffs when you have a time pressure? When someone in your team or asking you to close the deal within certain time frame, you need to have a multiple handoff progress, and the outcome is not very tangible. Unless you close the deal, it's not tangible.
Yeah.
So you have to show, okay, or at least you want to progress, and how do you do that in a limited time frame?
My first point is you can't force trust. My second is these work especially in about 10 to 15 minutes on product discovery. You'll get to value very fast. It feels like you're going slow, but you're actually going way faster. Because when you let silence do its work, they tell you the one thing that's most important next. And you go all the way there. And you go very far each step. And the third thing I will tell you is you can make urgency a point. We really need to find a way to make a decision on this within the next 48 hours. Stop. So urgency can come into this flow without over-talking and without getting anxious and causing anxiety. But you just have to say it, kind of say what you want. Okay. The second way of being is to follow the clues. This means somebody says, insert your category of software. Here are the things that I hate about other categories of software like this. They always have a long on-ramp period, and they end up charging services fees just to configure the software, because even though we all get excited about it up front, in the end it takes integration time and implementation time. That's what they've said. We are tempted to say a reply, and we say something like, well, we don't do that here. Or we're known for not having that, or some sort of answer. But somebody just broadcast that they have a historical and frustrating experience. We want them to be fully heard, and then they will believe all of that without us ever saying it. So we might say something like, tell me more about this going wrong. If somebody says we've been really frustrated with our previous vendor, we say, frustrated how? We don't say, everybody loves us. We say, frustrated how? The clues typically show up in 2 ways. One is hot words. The other is buzzwords. I recently had a deal where they really wanted to negotiate down price. And the person I was talking to said, we're just going to have to see better ROI. And I said, how do you calculate ROI? And he was like, what do you mean? Like, no, literally, how does your organization calculate ROI? It's like, it just means that you get more money back than you spent. Like, no. It sounds to me like you're wanting more money back than you spent within 3 months, instead of way more money than you spent within 3 years. In some industries, they calculate ROI as lifetime value of a customer. Sounds to me like you're just thinking about cost. Stop. It's like, is what he did. Like, you probably need to go talk inside your organization and decide how much future return is motivating to you. Let me know when you have an answer. Buzzwords, very fun. Third rule of engagement.
Hold on, what's a hot word?
Oh, a hot word is frustrated, happy, loved, an emotional word. Double click that. Emotional how? It's emotional how. Frustrated how? Delighted how?
You used it a second ago as well. Brene Brown does a good talk on building relationships. Tell me more.
Tell me more about frustrated. That's right. The third one is open questions and prompts. Closed questions start with do you, would you, could you. Open questions start with what, how, or we just heard, tell me about. Open questions ask for a story. Closed questions ask for an answer. In weekend language, if I say, did you have a good morning? She knows, I mean, how was your morning? In deals, with strangers, or in any intense situation, the human mind perceives the question literally rather than figuratively. And so if I ask my teenage daughter, who has the maximum lowest trust that's available, did you have a good day at school? She will say yes, no, or But if I ask her, what happened in music class today? She's liable to tell me a story. So what happens here is we train ourselves to use closed-ended questions because our friends know we mean open-ended questions. We have to train our brains to literally speak out of our mouths open-ended questions when we want the story. These 3 rules of engagement are more caught than taught. You're all understanding them and nodding. Most of us don't realize we're not doing some of them or really struggle with things like silence and question phrasing. Good news is you can train in every single part of life. So I'd like to now go back to this model here. I'm going to give one take of how this looks good, and then I'm going to stop. What brought you to this call today? Well, we heard something about reverse logistics platform. What are your current initiatives regarding reverse logistics? We don't have any. Alarm bells. There's nothing here worth talking about. What are the costs right now in your downstream supply chain? Oh, they start telling me. No, I'm good. Okay. How are you trying to solve that problem now? What kind of results are you getting? What's making it hard? Perfect world. Wave a magic wand. What does this look like? Here we're actually triggering a brain state more than gaining information as discovery people. The brain state is positivity. We want to move out of negativity into positivity. It's easier to work with. And then the money questions. What's it worth to you to achieve that objective? What difference will it make in your business? I often say, in money. That's one of my favorite phrases, in money. What difference will that make in money? What's that worth to your business? In money. If they don't have an answer to that, then I don't have an answer to that. There's no deal. When they answer that, there's a great deal. And that's powerful product discovery. Cool. Thank you all.